Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Islam for Europeans. And please like and subscribe to the channel. So I just want to clarify my positions because I've been on Twitter for the last 12 hours or so. And, if you haven't heard the news, the right-wing party AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, in Germany, the German parliament is considering making or banning the party basically. Now, Alternative for Deutschland has about like 23% of the popular vote or popularity in Germany. So it's a major problem. For those who aren't familiar with German politics, AfD is they're Eurosceptic, which means that they're against integration of Germany into the European Union. They're anti-immigration, so that's well noted. They're also very pro-Israel, and which they have to be. And on top of that, they always use Islam is some of their anti-Islam, their talking points against immigration, which is a pretty big problem, for Muslims living in Germany. Many of their posters will have the picture of the niqab, or the eyes of a woman in niqab, threatening Germans that this is going to be their future, if policy is not changed. They're also against the war in Ukraine. They want a peaceful resolution to the war in Ukraine, and just right now they're just about giving a humanitarian aid to Ukraine. So a couple of things. Anyone who's taken a political science class knows that when you try to suppress any type of populist movement, whether that's the banning of a political party, or any particular protest arm, that is only going to galvanize the people and give them more extreme voices, the biggest voice among that group. And this is true in the past, and it's even more true in 2023. I'll give you a couple examples. So just take a homegrown example. In Canada, there was a lot of talk in the 1980s of Quebec separating from Canada, and they had the first referendum for Quebec to separate in 1980, and then only the sovereigntists only got about 40% of the popular vote. Now, the Quebecois, they had a lot of complaints, about the Marsh Accords, and integration of Quebec, or allowing Quebec to run their own affairs. And no one ever took them seriously. And you had at a certain point a more moderate Quebec leader, and he wasn't he was pretty much silenced basically. And after that, what happened? Surprise, surprise, that the Bloc Québécois, or the separatist group in Quebec, became that much stronger, because any type of things used to silence the people are going to be used as a lightning rod to galvanize more support among the people. And the Canada almost lost Quebec in the referendum in 1995. So this is even more true in 2023 because we're living in the digital age, right? You have social media platforms that are the biggest and most open to the public, like Facebook and Twitter. And for the longest time, Twitter had very draconian rules before Elon Musk came along. So what happened when they started banning all these people in the dissident right is that they went into other alt tech platforms that weren't monitored by any type of government or body, and those voices that were the most extreme became the biggest voices. Right. So, and you can also look to the BNP in the UK. The British National Party was banned in the UK in the 2010s. Originally the establishment came to Nick Griffin, and they said, you can have the BNP, but you have to focus on hating Islam, and you can't criticize the banking system. So instead of taking the deal, the BNP, that went public with this request, and ended up getting banned completely. And if you look at that and you think, oh, that's great, that's great for the Muslim community. But what happens is that you get a more extreme movement that comes along that's even less willing to budge, on immigration or to give Muslims a fair shot. So now United Kingdom has to face Patriotic Alternative, which is a far more extreme right wing party than the BNP, right? So, and it plays into this whole strawman argument. For us who are just traditionalist Muslims who look at the situation objectively and think, what is the best thing for Muslims living in Germany, and Muslims who are in horrible situations, with the refugee crisis, and for Muslims living in Muslim countries in general. What's the best thing for that? And is there a way that there's a solution that's the best thing for everybody, right? That is not quote unquote allying with the right. So I've never suggested at any point in my stances that we should quote unquote ally, with any right wing party. Obviously, there are a lot of really anti-Islam elements in the AfD, and even to just say that you're a Muslim, if you look at my my tweet, how many people just blasted me, just for the basic fact that I was, a white Muslim, calling me a traitor, and you can't ally with these people, right? So, my detractors, saying that, that we're quote unquote allying with the right and this is going to lead to destruction of the Muslim community. That's not what I'm advocating for, right? Anyone who's taken the time to watch my videos knows that the best solution for Muslims living in Europe is follows. A couple of things. One, helping to establish European descendant Muslim communities. What does that mean? So that the converts, let's take Germany, for example. Thousands of Germans convert to Islam every year. And instead of having to try them, completely change who they are in terms of their dress and their accent and their cuisine, they should collectivize into a sub-community. They should keep everything that is good in their traditional culture and just get rid of the haram things. So that will do a couple of things, because one of the main talking points of the AfD is that the native German population is not having kids anymore. And that's there's one of the posters I saw, like a pregnant German woman. So this would completely flip the script for Muslims living in Germany, because then Islam would be seen as a religion or a way of life that would actually increase the birth rate of the native population, and preserve their culture at the same time, while just getting rid of the degenerate aspects, right? So that's one thing. What the Muslim community has been doing in terms of going against these certain school agendas that our kids are going to be affected by. The Europeans on the right who have more positive attitudes towards Islam or neutral opinions, they see that this is a positive thing, and it's a wonderful step in the right direction. It runs counter to the argument that Islam isn't bringing anything, because we're such a strong force against keeping traditional values, right? So those are two bargaining chips that would where we could say we advocate for the safety and security of all Muslims who are currently living in Europe, right? So that's always been my position, and but by doing that, you don't even have to ally with these right-wing parties. What you are doing is that you are basically dividing the two factions of the right. So for those who don't know, the right is divided into the establishment right, who tend to be more libertarian, modernist, I guess more in line with liberalism, and that is like the side of of any right-wing political party. Those are going to have the strongest voices, and basically the only voices sometimes. And they're going to be very anti-Islam, because they're against liberalism. So that's always one of their main talking points when it comes to anti-refugee sentiment, right? Then you have another faction of the right whose opinions on Islam range from negative to positive, who are against liberalism, who are, believe in traditional values, who understand that the reason why many of these Muslim countries have been destabilized is through invasion and supporting puppet dictators. So they understand the reasons that have precipitated, the refugee crisis, right? So it's not about allying with either of these two groups, but if you have these principal positions, what it does is that it creates disunity among these two groups, because these two factions of the right despise one another. They really dislike one another. The dissident right, as I stated before, they've been largely deplatformed. But if you keep turning the whole, if current Muslim leadership keeps muddying the waters between, Islam as a religion and Islam as, a race of people, or as like, just limited to a geographic location, then you really muddy the waters, and you give the dissident right no choice but to ally more with the with the liberal anti-Islam right, and that has devastating consequences, especially in a country like Germany, where you don't have a first past the post governmental structure. So what I mean by that is, in Canada and the United States, you have just two major parties usually. And usually it's always one of these two major parties that win, because the smaller parties, they don't have enough percentage points of popular vote to win any seats in their house or to win an election, really. So when you have a country like Germany, you can have multiple parties, where you can vote for multiple parties. And, the fact that you have maybe proportional representation, they're going to get, at least some support in, in their governmental parliamentary system. So giving them more ammo and more reason for these parties for the native people to vote for these right-wing parties has devastating effects. Because if you go from 10% of the popular vote to 23 or 25%, then those results are just going to be disastrous for the Muslims. And what will happen is, if and when they do ban the AfD, there's going to be another party that'll come along. Either it's going to be, a far right, illiberal, anti-globalist party like Patriotic Alternative, or it's going to be an even more, pro-establishment, neoconservative style of party that's even more anti-Muslim. That's, it's just inevitable. It happens time and time again. Whenever you try to suppress the voice of the people, that then, and a more extreme group comes along, they have the strongest voices. And, once you run out of, democratic or solutions with discourse, God forbid, that it turns even worse. So that's my position on things. I don't agree with any type of forced repatriation. I think that the best way that to resolve the refugee crisis is to focus on aid in current refugee camps in the Muslim world, who are suffering day and night, who are living on shoestring budgets, and you can take a portion of the money that's used to fund maybe a few dozen refugees in Europe for how long? A couple of weeks, to supporting funding an entire refugee camp for an entire year. So lives are in the balance here. The lives of our Muslim brothers and sisters are definitely in the balance, and I do think that Muslim communities in Europe, even though they've been attacked and marginalized and made into this punching bag, where they don't know what's going to happen to them in a couple of decades, they can still, by having these principled stances on our traditional values, change the game, or change the whole the whole face and image of Islam in the West, inshallah. Now, on a final point, and I know some people on the right are probably watching the videos as well, and I'm sure that they're blasting me as a traitor. But and this is I just want to say about those who are committing crimes in Europe, whether they're Europeans or whether they're Muslims. We in our religion, we don't believe that, people or Muslims should even, especially Muslims, should not be committing horrible acts against non-Muslims. Horrible crimes such as rape, thievery, assault, drug abuse, even, like sex outside of marriage. These are things that are completely not allowed in our religion. And, there are some Muslims who are doing these things. And, it's completely and totally against our religion. So, just like I believe that, Europeans should be, if they're caught doing these things, they should be punished to the fullest extent of law. So should Muslims who are doing these things. And you can talk about, whataboutery, like who's committing more crimes on a percentage basis, but, like, again, I stick to my print, we should, as Muslims, we should stick to our principles. If Muslims are doing something horrible like this, we should stand up and say, our religion does not allow this. They should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. It's giving, Muslims a bad name in Europe. And it's doing nothing but galvanizing groups like the AfD at the end of the day, right? So that's my take on that. I hopefully, like, again, hundreds of people like my tweet. So I'm sure there are many. That's the last thing I want to say is that there are many people on both sides of this aisle, both Muslims and Europeans, and even on the right, who actually agree with the things that I'm saying. They see that both sides are victim of the neoliberal order. That like they want to. You have a group that wants to get rid of all tradition. That wants to see hatred and not just hatred, but just apathy, really. To just live in like this post-liberal world where we're just living this hedonistic lifestyle and having no values anymore. But how we want to have a society that lives on for the ages. And I think that those are who are on the majority, because there are many Muslims and many Europeans that actually liked what I had to say, right? But they don't say anything. They're like the silent majority. Whereas the ones who just want Muslims out of Europe, the whole GTFO approach, which I'm totally against. Those are the ones that are going to have the loudest voices, unfortunately. And their ideas are irrational. I mean, they're not in any type of position where that can even practically take place. But short of God forbid, any type of physical conflict, which we want to avoid at all costs. I mean, our numbers are being Europeans' numbers are being depleted enough as it is. Like there has to be some sort of a peaceful resolution. So, right. So, that's my time for today. Please like and subscribe to Islam for Europeans. And again, I am willing to talk to any of my detractors. If you think that what I'm saying is simping, or saying that you're construing this as saying that I somehow support the AfD. No, I don't want the AfD to win an election. But what will happen is if we rely on the government, on Western governments to to basically quote unquote win this ideological battle just by political power, you're going to find that unfortunately it's going to make things a lot worse for the Muslim community in the long run, because they're going to become even more extreme. So again, that's my time for the day. Please like, subscribe to Islam for Europeans. And to my detractors, you're more than welcome to come on and have a civil discussion with me, whether that's from Muslim my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters, or my fellow Europeans as well. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.